Pre-1917, the region of Israel-Palestine was inhabited by an Arab majority and Jewish minority under the Ottoman Empire. 1917. Balfour Declaration promises the creation of a national home for the Jewish people without prejudicing the civil and religious rights of the non-Jewish community. 1918. World War I ends and Britain gains control of the Palestine territory as per a resolution of the newly formed League of Nations in 1922. 1929 Palestinian uprising against the Balfour Declaration and British rule. From 1932 to 1938, the rise of the Nazi Party in Germany led to a mass exodus of the Jewish community from Europe to the Israel-Palestine region. This significant migration sparked Palestinian protests. In 1937, the Peel Commission was formed to propose a partition of Israel and Palestine. In 1947, the United Nations adopted a partition plan for Palestine known as Resolution 181. This plan aimed to allocate nearly equal land to both Jewish and Arab communities. However, the Arab community rejected this proposal. May 1948. The British mandate on Israel lapses and Israel declares itself as an independent state. June 1948. Egypt, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon and Syria attack Israel and commence the First Arab-Israeli War, which Israel wins. It takes over 70% of the Palestinian territory, and Palestinians are forced to flee, called the Nakba, or catastrophe. December 1948. Passes Resolution 194 which provides Palestinians with the right to return. 1956. The Suez Crisis unfolds as Egypt nationalizes the Suez Canal. In retaliation, Israel invades the Sinai Peninsula with European backing. 1964. The Palestine Liberation Organization or PLO is founded. June 1967. Egypt closes the Strait of Tiran over disagreements with Israel, which leads to the Six-Day War. Israel defeats the forces of Egypt, Syria, Jordan and Iraq. As a result, Israel takes over the Sinai Peninsula and Gaza Strip from Egypt, the Golan Heights from Syria, and East Jerusalem and the West Bank from Jordan. November 1967. The United Nations Security Council adopts Resolution 242, affirming Israel's right to, live in peace within secure boundaries, and calling for Israel to secede captured territories. 1969. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation was formed in Morocco, pledging its support to the Palestinian cause. September 1972. The Munich massacre occurs as Black September, a militant Palestinian organization, tragically kills Israeli athletes sent to the Munich Olympics. 1973. The Yom Kippur War started by Egypt and Syria to take back the Sinai Peninsula and Golan Heights from Israeli occupation. A UN-brokered ceasefire eventually ended the war. 1974. The PLO was recognized by the UN as the representative of Palestinians and provided a non-observer status. 1978, the US-mediated Camp David Accords were signed between Israel and Egypt. Egypt becomes the first Arab nation to recognize Israel. 1979. The Israel-Egypt Peace Treaty was signed, in which Israel seceded the Sinai Peninsula and Egypt removed blockades on the Tiran Strait and the Gulf of Aqaba. 1982. Israeli forces entered Beirut to remove the PLO forces operating from Lebanon, which forced the United States to persuade Israel to create a security zone in Lebanon. 1987. The First Intifada begins with Palestinian riots in the West Bank and Gaza against repressive Israeli rule. After the end of the First Intifada, Hamas is created. 1991. The Madrid Conference was attended by the United States, the USSR, Israel, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and the PLO. This conference eventually led to the Oslo Accords of 1993. 1993. The Oslo Accords created the Palestinian National Authority, which was an interim self-government. It also led to the withdrawal of the Israeli Defense Forces from the West Bank and Gaza. 1995 Oslo II, also known as the Taba Accords, was signed. This agreement granted the Palestinian National Authority more powers in the West Bank and Gaza regions. In the year 2000, the Camp David Summit was held between Israel and Palestine in an attempt to resolve their long-standing conflict. Unfortunately, its failure led to the outbreak of the Second Intifada and resulted in Israel placing a wall in the West Bank and Gaza. Fast forward to 2002, the International Court of Justice deemed the wall as an act of annexation. In the same year, the United Nations Security Council adopted Resolution 1397, aiming to halt all violence amidst the Israeli operation known as Defensive Shield. By 2005, Israel ceded control of Gaza and parts of the West Bank to the Palestinian National Authority. That same year, Hamas won the election in Gaza, but, the international community did not accept Hamas's victory. 2006 Hezbollah attacks Israeli soldiers from Lebanon, and Israel responds with airstrikes. The United Nations adopts a resolution requiring Israel to withdraw from Lebanon. 2007. A two-state solution is proposed for the first time at the Annapolis Conference in the United States. 2012. The United Nations declares that state of Palestine would be used in documents. In 2014, Israel launches airstrikes on Hamas after Hamas kidnaps and kills Israelis. In 2020, the U.S. brokers the Abraham Accords between the UAE and Bahrain with Israel. In 2021, Israel evicts Palestinians from East Jerusalem, leading to riots and violence. A ceasefire is achieved after a Qatar-Egypt brokered peace process. October 2023, Hamas incursions into Israel from the Gaza Strip, leading to a war. Israel moves forces into Gaza and raids Al-Shifa Hospital. November 2023, first ceasefire for 7 days. July 2024, the International Court of Justice rules that Israeli occupation is unlawful based on the South African case. Ismail Haniyeh, a prominent leader of Hamas, was assassinated in Tehran. Attacks from Houthis from Yemen on Red Sea ships, Lebanese Hezbollah, Iraq and Iranian forces have engaged in the ongoing 2023 conflict. As of July, no ceasefire has been adopted.